When it comes to defending your loot in Clash of Clans, there's a hidden set of calculations that determines exactly how much of your gold, elixir, and dark elixir can be taken by an attacker. So, what are the numbers? And what should you do before logging off to protect your loot? Let's break down the math behind how you can reduce how much loot an attacker can take from you. First, let's start with exactly how much of my loot can be taken. When someone attacks you, they don't just take a random amount. From Townhalls 9 to 17, attackers can take up to 14% of what's in your gold and elixir storages, and up to 5% of what's in your dark elixir storage. However, there's also a loot cap, meaning, once you hit a certain amount of loot in your storages, there's a maximum lootable amount an attacker can take from you. So, if your storages are under the cap, the attacker takes a percentage, and if they're above the cap, the attacker can only get up to the cap amount. That's why maxing out storages doesn't necessarily make you a juicier target. Once you hit the cap, the 14% rule no longer applies. So, for example, as a Townhall 15, even if you have 20 million gold in your storages, which is above the cap, the attacker can still only take 1.54 million, which is 14% of the Townhall 15 cap, 11 million, instead of 14% of the full 20 million in your storages. But sometimes attackers seem to take more than that. So then how is this possible? Lootable sources. The answer is, storages aren't the only parameters in the calculation. Collectors, drills, and your clan castle treasury also hold resources that can be taken. That means an attacker can grab loot from your storages, up to the loot cap, plus your collectors, based on what you haven't collected, plus your clan castle treasury. Just 3% of it, but yes, it's stealable. So when you see a raid replay where you lost more than the cap, it's because your collectors and treasury added to the total. So now, let me tell you about how you can be strategic with your clan castle treasury.
Since tapping your collectors before loading off is kinda obvious.
Clan castle treasury. The treasury is the lowest risk storage in Clash of Clans, allowing only 3% of its contents to be taken during an attack. Because of this difference, the timing of collection matters. When storages are below the loot cap, collecting treasury loot shifts resources from a low-risk 3% zone into a higher-risk 14% zone, increasing the amount that the attacker can take from you. If you don't plan on upgrading anything during your current shield, then this is the not as good time to collect, when storages are below the cap, because now they can take 14% of the treasury amount instead of just 3%. However, once your storages reach or exceed the loot cap, the maximum amount of loot that an attacker can take from your storages no longer increases. Now, this is the ideal time to collect your treasury loot because instead of an attacker taking the cap plus 3% of treasury plus collectors, they're instead taking the cap plus 0% of treasury plus collectors. So, before you log off, here's what you can do.
Tap your collectors.
Leave your treasury uncollected if your storages are below your loot cap and you don't plan on upgrading anything during this shield. Collect treasury loot when storages are very close to or exceed your loot cap, or when you want to use it on a builder or lab upgrade. Because in Clash of Clans, strategy isn't just about your army or defenses. It's also about the math.